The money pit of Oak Island has been a mystery since the 1700s. Shafts dug to well over 100 feet have brought tantalizing clues, but none of the suspected pirate treasure that lies deep below. Or is it something the Knights Templars buried? Or is it Marie Antoinette's crown jewels? No one knows what lies beneath Oak Island, but for over 200 years, treasure hunters have been tearing up that island in search of something.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Weird World Podcast. I'm Carrie.
I'm Dean.
Hi, Dean.
Hi. What do you have for us today, Carrie?
I have a tale about something called the Oak Island Money Pit.
The Oak Island Money Pit. Okay, go ahead. Start us out. I'm interested in this one.
Once upon a time,
Go on.
there was an island full of oak trees.
You know what? Let me just do
Oh,
it. Can
okay.
I just this is very spur of the moment, people. So hopefully I've got my facts together. So one thing right off the bat that honestly, I guess I knew, but you don't think about it. Oak Island. What do you think Oak Island is? If you've heard of this story, right? It's on.
Yes.
It's been on TV as a reality show for over a decade.
I think it's a small island with one gigantic oak tree in the middle of it.
That's a great guess. Where do you think it is, though?
It is, I don't have any idea.
Take a step. Part of the world. Oak Island.
I know. I'm trying to
People
think.
are speaking English on there, at least the people we've seen.
Do they? Is it off the
Yeah.
coast of Canada?
Yes.
Oh!
I think a lot of people think it's American, I guess, maybe, like but Maine or something like that. But no, it's actually off the coast of Nova Scotia.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the Canadian maritime provinces. It's kind of at the far southeast of Canada, is like sort of due east of
Mhm.
Maine. It's a huge peninsula, essentially, effectively. This Nova Scotia is at the end of that. The south side, there's a place called Mahone Bay, and it's got a ton of little islands and islets in Mahone Bay. One of those is Oak Island. It's about 1 mile long, about a half mile wide, so it's not very big.
Tiny.
But no, it turns out it was actually studded with lots of oak trees, not just one giant oak tree.
See, I originally said there were lots of oak trees, and then I changed
You
it.
changed to just one massive,
Mhm.
massive oak tree that covered most of the island.
Mhm.
It turns out, though, that unfortunately a horde of black ants, I don't know how this, it said it was destroyed. Almost all the oak trees were destroyed by a black ant infestation
Huh.
in the 1800s. So now it's mostly spruce trees, pine trees,
Yeah.
and lots of shrubbery and stuff like that. Still pretty densely forested. Nova
I
Scotia.
didn't know ants could ruin oak
I
trees.
wouldn't have thought that either, because ants are everywhere where oak trees are. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure what that meant.
Yeah.
I didn't look it up any further. I didn't really care. So Nova Scotia and Newfoundland have been or had been inhabited for millennia by the Micmac tribe before the French started to push them out.
Mhm.
And then the English, of course, did. So the colonists came to this area, what's now nearby Oak Island on the mainland. Again, it's just right off. This one is actually just very, very close to the shore, to the mainland. And about 1750, that area started to be colonized.
Mhm.
And I think I can't remember if the French were still in charge of that area, if the English were. I don't know. But the English, I think, took over. And by the 1760s, you started having English colonists come in and inhabit that part of Nova Scotia around Mahone Bay. And they would often use Oak Island and some of those other islands as a very convenient and safe place to graze their cattle, their sheep, or their cows, because
Mhm.
predators weren't there. They didn't need to put a fence up, whatever. They weren't going to go anywhere. I don't know how they got them over there. Boat? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But the locals would do that. Today, Oak Island is part of Lunenburg County in Nova Scotia. It's linked to the mainland at Crandall Point by a short causeway. We'll talk about how that causeway came to be later. It's a very rural area. Think farms and little baby villages and things like that. It's about 30 miles or so from a town of Bridgewater, which is like the big city in Lunenburg County. It has a population of 9,000. So it's still a very rural,
Yeah.
sparsely populated area. Since at least the 1850s, probably before, the island has been inhabited mainly by treasure hunters. Once in a while, a couple families might live on the island itself, but it's just very small. There's no really reason to. So mostly it's been just a countless train of treasure hunters. We're going to go through them in a while. It's unbelievable how many there have been and how long it keeps going on. It's an ordeal. We're gonna get through it though.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Are
get
they camping there, or are there like
the,
structures? And
the treasure, that's a good question. I mean, there is a couple of cottages historically there. I don't know. I'm sure nowadays with the TV show on, there must be permanent structures for the crew and the cast and all those people there on the island.
Yeah.
Unless they just go over to the mainland. I don't know, to be honest with you. It's still very, very, very sparsely populated, but it seems like there's been a little population of diggers and excavators and treasure hunters right there where the supposed money pit is located for a very long time now.
okay.
So right now it's controlled by Marty and Rick Lagina, and they are, I think that's how you pronounce it, right? I hope so. They're the guys who basically do the Curse of Oak Island TV show that has been on the History Channel for I think this is like his 13th or something like that season now.
Jeez.
As we speak. So I know it's crazy. So it's private property, but there's lots of tourists, and there's like whatever, a ferry goes over. I guess you can drive along the causeway too now, and so there's tourists going back and forth, but it's still a very rural area, and Oak Island itself is not populated. So the money pit is said to hide just an immense fortune on Oak Island. To me, this is the story of the hunt for the treasure of Oak Island is a little bit like the allegory of Schrodinger's cat. Bear with me.
Okay.
This is a very famous sort of scientific conundrum invented by a physicist, an Austrian physicist, I believe, named Ernst Schrodinger. And he is sort of think of it almost like a thought experiment. It posits that a cat is placed inside a metal box along with a radioactive atom, a Geiger counter, a hammer, and a vial of poison. Again, bear with me. This is actually a very famous.
Yes.
Have you heard of it?
Yes.
In the intellectual world, this is like this famous thought experiment, sign of what a genius Ernst Schrodinger was. The challenge is that if the atom decays, the Geiger counter will detect that decay. This action, in turn, triggers the hammer, which breaks the vial of poison gas and kills the cat. But if the atom does not decay, the cat lives on. The supposed paradox is that the atom exists in a so-called superposition, a state of superposition that's of both being decayed and undecayed states until the Geiger measures it. This means the cat is also, therefore, in a state of superposition, and is consequently both dead and alive at the same time until someone opens the box to check on the cat. Schrodinger's cat little tale here is kind of considered this sort of sublime genius. It's really very brilliant. It explains superposition, which is the state of kind of readiness to be in two different states. Any child can tell you the cat's alive until the cat's not alive anymore.
Yes.
And if the act of opening the box kills the cat, then the cat's then dead. When the hammer or when the poison kills the cat, then the cat's dead. Guess what the cat was before that? It was alive. Now it's dead. It's the dumbest, most overrated scientific conundrum in the history of thought experiments. It's just so dumb.
It sounds kind of silly.
It's absolutely stupid. I mean, Jesus, it's alive until the poison gas kills it. We're done here. What it's trying to explain,
or it starves to death because
whatever.
Nobody checked on it.
It's trying to explain there is this state of superposition where there's where measuring the act of detecting or measuring something unalterably alters that something, and so it's like we can't really get our handle on what that something really truly is in its true state of nature. I think that's kind of at least part of the idea.
Okay.
And that's why I swear to you, I'll bring this back to the money pit. The money pit is a bit like that. The Oak Island story is this sort of tale of just one poorly executed effort to uncover this buried treasure after another, after another, after another. And what they've left behind is an absolutely hopeless mess. This TV show, I'll give away a little bit here at the beginning. The TV show that's been on for 13 or whatever many years it's been on has never dug anywhere near where the original money pit was, and they know it. And no one really has been digging near that money pit for decades.
Okay.
It's become so the act of trying to find it made it unfindable. That's why I compare it. And listen,
Oh, okay.
I mean, did I squeeze this analogy of Schrodinger's cat paradox just so I could badmouth the Schrodinger's cat paradox? Maybe. In fact, I'm going to say absolutely sure. Obviously, of course I did. But, you know, this is sort of like the treasure, sort of like that quantum particle that in the attempt to detect it or unearth it, you have changed it, or at the very a little different than that, you have made it impossible to ever find in all likelihood. And that's where we
Okay.
stand today with what's the mess that is the area that was originally
Right.
the money pit.
Yeah.
It's absolute. I mean, just a complete mess was what they've done with it. They've screwed it up forever. So, given that, let's start with this long history of futility that is the search for the treasure of Oak Island. So, start at the beginning, of course, which is the foundation of the Oak Island treasure story. Even though this, there's some uncertainty here because it was way back in 1795. So, might have been June. Some people say October. As we know from these stories that take place long ago, the sources always have differences. That maddens me because just, who said if it was June? Who first said, "Oh, it was October"? You lazy bastard, or vice versa.
How am I going to do my timeline?
Just say sometime in 1795. Just do an annual one. Yeah, I don't think you need to know months so much.
I don't know.
So,
it might mess everything up.
I'm just heartened to hear you say you're going to do a timeline. I don't see any writing utensils over there. Interesting. I don't know if I believe you. So it was a local teenager named Dan McGinnis who rowed his little boat from the mainland against, I don't exactly, but it's very close to the mainland.
Yeah.
And to Oak Island. And why did he do that? You wondered? Well, I think it was to check the local legend of eerie lights that had been coming from the island and a big black ghost dog, or a phantom dog kind of a thing. He was going to check and see, how true that was.
Okay.
Or no, he was just exploring all those little islands in Mahone Bay just for adventure.
Like teenage boys, that's what they do.
It's also said that he was going fishing. Hold on. Some say he was looking for some lost cattle or to find some cattle that had been grazing from his family or someone else. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Others also say he was checking on the legend of a buried treasure, but there by the legendary Captain Kidd, the English pirate, who had actually been in the area for a short time in 1699 before later being taken back to England and hanged by British authorities. So take your pick on why Dan McGinnis had rowed out to Oak Island that day in either June or October of 1795, but he did. So regardless of what he was looking for, McGinnis, he did find this clearing on the southeast kind of quarter of the island. So it's sort of a rectangle. Again, it's about a mile wide, north to south. I'm sorry, half mile in width, north to south, and about a mile long east to west.
Okay.
And Nova Scotia, the beach at this point is south facing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Mahone Bay is on the south side of Nova Scotia. And he's, he rows his boat out there, and whether he rowed it around, I don't know, but he got to the southeast side. So it'd be opposite of where he started from.
Right.
Or maybe he walked across it. Although again, it's very heavily forested, and it's not mountainous, but it's very hilly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's this little, I don't know. It's not far from the beach on the southeast side. He found this kind of a clearing, and he just looked around the clearing, and he saw kind of a depression in the middle of this clearing. And then very tantalizingly, he found a block and tackle rigged kind of hanging over the depression. So a block and tackle is like, like a tripod, like a large tripod with like a pulley at the apex of it over this depression in this clearing. Okay. It was pretty wide. It was about 12 to 14 feet in, I think, diameter. So how wide would that be? I don't know that's geometry.
Yeah.
There's pi involved, 3.14. I know that much, but so it's a decent sized depression there. And the block and tackle being left there, it was not clear how old he thought it was, how old it was, in fact. But to him, he right away thinks, okay, somebody must have used that to lower something.
Yeah.
I don't see a hole there now, but I do see a depression. Was there a hole there? And if it was true that his motivation was to this whole Captain Kidd treasure, which, by the way, again, spoiler alert, that for sure, without any question whatsoever, not his motivation. But he this piqued his interest. And he thought, well, you know what? That might be worth digging and looking. See if we can find 2, 4, 3, 5 feet down. Maybe we can find a pirate treasure or something like that. Something valuable. Somebody used that block and tackle to put something fairly heavy down what I think maybe has a hole and then reburied it. So he rose back.
Why wouldn't they take it away though when they were done?
That's a great question.
That just brings attention to where you dug your hole to put
you're just, I don't know why you'd say things like that. It's a terrible thing to say.
Sorry.
Oh, God, let's just forget you said that for a long time.
Okay.
So there was, yes, I mean, I guess you could say it's sort of this neon sign, something valuable is buried here, but in a hurry. How's that?
Okay.
Does that make you happy?
Sure.
Great.
Maybe they weren't finished. And they had to leave in a hurry. And they had to leave in a hurry because
storm's coming.
Native Americans.
Bad guys.
Native.
I like it.
Indigenous peoples.
I like it. The Micmacs.
Yeah.
The Micmacs heard them doing their ruckus, digging out a hole, came up to see what's going on, and said, "Bro, you're digging up our island.
Yeah.
Not cool." Shot an arrow. I don't know, through a hatchet, I want to say. McGinnis, he quickly rode back to the mainland, and he rounded up 2 friends of his, Anthony Vaughn and John Smith. He said, dude, Tony, Johnny, I'm assuming that. Tony, Johnny, I have something huge here. He described what he found, and he said, we're in. They went and they got some shovels, they got some picks, and they rode back to the island immediately. So they row back to the island and they start digging at this depression, and that hole that they started to dig would one day be known as what it is known now, the Money Pit. Maybe the most famous alleged buried treasure in the history of the world, at least outside of a Robert Louis Stevenson novel. Actually, for sure, including the Robert Louis Stevenson. Treasure Island. His novel has that idea, but since no one reads anymore, I'm going to say the Money Pit is the most famous buried pirate's treasure in the world. So they start digging, and Oak Island, as I'm sure you know, is basically limestone and gypsum. At this point, it seemed like it was mostly limestone. They dig into this limestone because it's a relatively porous rock, so it's actually pretty easy to excavate relative to other stones. But even knowing this, they thought pretty quickly, wow, this digging isn't that hard. The soil seems kind of loose. It suggested to them that what?
It had already been dug.
Yeah. It was fill, essentially. It was filled back in. So they're shoveling away pretty quickly. At this point, probably don't even need those damn picks, maybe for some hard rocks or something like that. But and obviously, that's exactly what they hoped to find and presumed they would find. At the 2-foot mark, they hit something hard. It's a layer of flagstones, just kind of flattish rocks, clearly intentionally laid over this hole. By the way, it's not always super clear. There's lots of variations, but they apparently were digging a very wide arc, at least 10 feet.
Oh, wow.
If not even the 12 or 13 feet that almost describe the entire area within the tripod, the 3 legs of that block and tackle apparatus. So figure at least 10. So it's a pretty wide hole they're digging. And they're digging it, they dig it to 2 feet, and they find this layer of rocks, these flagstones. They would later find out that those rocks were not from the island. They were from nearby, but they're from the Gold River, which is on the mainland, just 2-3 miles away on the mainland of Nova Scotia. So someone had brought those rocks over that island to use to build at the 2-foot level, or to sort of lay down at the 2-foot level of this hole. Undeterred, though, they keep digging. They get all the way down to 10 feet, and they hit something a little bit harder, but not quite stone. What's this? Rub it off. They're screwing their little hands, I guess. I don't know. Using their shovels. They're getting rid of the last layer of dirt on top of a platform of oak logs, dug all the way across the entire diameter of this hole, and even sticking into the sides of it.
Okay.
So someone at 10 feet down had laid a platform of logs, clearly, man-made to them.
This sounds like it was a major proposition.
A very major problem. Oh, girlfriend, we're just getting started. Trust me on
the people who did it in the first place.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they thought, okay, well, whatever. They're pretty decayed. They're kind of soft. So they thought, okay, they've probably been here
there
a while.
for a while, yeah.
That's cool. So they, whatever, dig them up, toss them aside, keep digging. And they then...
Okay, that would not be easy. 3 teenage boys.
It'd be very difficult.
How do they pull out oak logs?
Carrie. Let's choose to leave that alone for now.
Okay.
And maybe we'll come back to that at some point in the episodes, plural.
Okay.
They're digging. They go past the 10-foot mark. They throw out the platform. They keep digging 11, 12, 13 feet. Again, they're excited. This dovetails with this idea of buried treasure. This is getting really good. It's going to be any time now. We're gonna dig into it. It's going to be a treasure chest. We're talking jewels. We're talking pearls. We're talking gold. Some silver. You know what? You just leave the silver behind. Who gives a shit? It's gold and jewels and pearls, like emeralds, rubies, diamonds. The whole works. It's going to be there anytime now. As they dig down further, 14, 15 feet, they start to notice that there's some markings, like looks like pick marks already there on the sides of the shaft that they're digging out. And they think, hey, that's another sign that we're not digging a hole, we're redigging a hole. So
clearly.
Even more excited.
Yeah, okay.
20 feet down, the shovel again strikes something. I mean, they're excited now. They must have looked at it with this eager anticipation. This is it. No, it was another platform of decaying oak logs.
Okay, were they doing this for like an entire week straight? Because
no, this is from what I can tell from the sources, this is the first day. Again, loose soil,
not
very
possible.
easy. I'm shocked that you'd say something like that. Clearly, this story has come down. This is for sure something that happened. And I can't believe you'd cast aspersions on Dan and Tony and Johnny. And I'm a little disappointed.
All you have to do is modify the story.
No, Carrie,
over a week, every day.
See, you can't modify the truth, Carrie. Now can you? And they did this
Okay.
I don't know for a fact that it was supposed to be in one day, but I get that you'll see why I think it was supposed to be in one day. I'll tell you in a second. Okay. So it's now 20 feet and they're thinking, okay, still, so what? You know what? This means there's something very valuable down there because they took the trouble to A, build dig a very, very deep hole, and B, put these 2 levels of oak platforms to sort of guard that treasure. So time to keep digging. Let's go, guys. So they do. And they then hit all the way down to the 30-foot level. And again, a shovel makes a little bit of a different feel to it. Doesn't feel like stone. Doesn't really quite feel, maybe it could be wood, which could be a wooden treasure chest now, couldn't it, Carrie?
Yeah, it could be.
Or it could be another platform of oak logs at the 30-foot level.
Wow.
At this point, one of them looks up the shaft, the 30 foot above them.
Yeah. How are they going to get out?
I hope one of them stayed up with a rope. I'm assuming they did. Or they tied it off to a tree, maybe, something like that. Anyway, they figured, okay, is that the moon? We need to get the hell out of here. It's going to be dark in a min. It's maybe dusk already. And so the story goes that they, got out of the hole, slumped shoulders, made their way back to the rowboat, and went back to the mainland. So that's why it seems like this 30-foot hole was dug in one day.
Okay.
I think.
Yes.
The boys tell some of the local farmers, like, hey, here's what we found. Here's what we did. Come on, let's do something. But now everybody's like, you boys have fun with that. They're in Nova Scotia, so they had a deep Southern accent, obviously. Yeah. U.S. Southern accent or something. They said something, but basically they could get no one interested in doing anything about it. McGinnis himself would spend a lot of time on the island. He would go there. He never lived there. John Smith, his partner, would actually buy a parcel a few years later, and he bought the parcel that included the money pit, and he'd build himself a nice little cottage, and he moved his family there. But neither one, as far as I can tell, ever tried to dig anything more than that 30-foot dig already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It wasn't until 1802, so 7 years after, that a guy named Simeon Lynds, or Lines, Lynds, got involved.
What was the first name?
Simeon.
Oh.
Super cool name.
Okay.
You have to admit. You do admit Simeon's a cool name.
Ape-like?
Simeon.
Oh.
Carrie. A comment. To all the listeners named Simeon out there, I apologize for, Carrie.
I am only hearing it.
Ape-like.
Isn't that what Simeon means?
Yes, but Carrie, A person's not going to be named after. Oh my God.
I thought you'd be impressed that I know what Simeon means.
I expected to know Simeon means.
Okay.
Simeon may have been, or Lions. Let's call them Lions, and it could be Lins. I don't know.
I think
He
it's
may
Lins.
have. You think it's Lions?
I think it's Lynn's.
Because Lins. We're going with Lins then. Lins may have been a relative of Anthony Vaughn, the other friend besides John
Mhm.
Smith. He may also have been a relative of John Smith. He may also have been a local doctor who had birthed one of John Smith's babies, or he may have been just some guy in the area who heard about the stories of the Oak Island Money Pit. So again, we have at least those many versions of who Simeon Lins was. Whatever the case, Lins was a believer. He thought there was something. He thought it was worth exploring further.
Mm-hmm.
He formed this a consortium, I guess, of some local businessmen. I think that's what he was. Like I said, maybe he was a doctor or something like that. So he got some local businessmen together because they had some money, and they raised money, and they put in, I'm sure, shares themselves to start digging. So presumably that 30, it's only 7 years or 8 years now. It's probably about 1803 when they start. They start digging at that 30-foot level. Again, presumably it's still a 30-foot hole.
Hold
right?
up.
Yes.
Do they have the permission of the property owner now? Who's
Yes.
one of the original kids?
They do. I don't know if they cut them in or promised them something or something like that, but yeah, it's John Brown. So they did. They called their group the Onslow Company, Onslow, and they hired some workmen to come out and help them do the digging. They're going to, I presume, mint juleps, Canadian mint juleps, as they stand around the hole watching other people dig for them.
Mm-hmm.
Their experience probably would eventually elicit some very knowing nods from Dan McGinnis and Tony and Johnny, because at the 40-foot level, what do you think they found?
Another set of logs.
Another platform of oak logs at 40 feet. That makes 3 platforms. And also remember that layer of stones at the 2-foot level. And at the 50-foot level, at the 60-foot level, at the 70-foot level, Carrie, at the 80-foot level.
More logs?
Every 10-foot interval, they found another platform of oak logs.
This was very organized.
It's very organized. The later platforms, like after 40 feet, I think, were sort of bolstered, I guess, by layers of charcoal, as well as an odd fibrous material that would eventually be identified as coconut fibers. I think from the husk of the coconut.
Yeah.
The coconut, that's weird because there were no coconuts anywhere near Oak Island, of course, hundreds, if not thousands of miles away. But there were coconuts down where, Carrie? Where would you find coconuts?
Florida.
Yeah. The nearby West Indies, Carrie. What kind of things happened in the West Indies in the 1600s, well into the 1700s?
A lot of trade.
Well, what happened to those ships that were trading?
Pirates.
Pirates. That's the kind of place pirates preyed on treasure ships. Those kinds of places had coconuts. So they're thinking, that's a good sign. Did some pirates have a bunch of coconut fiber? Coconut fibers actually were used for
lots of stuff.
A fair amount of uses. Yeah. They're very rugged. They're very durable. So, but again, like you said, this is like, now we're finding this, not just the oak platforms this far down, but it's kind of, they use some layers of charcoal and coconut fibers to help, I don't know, sustain those platforms, to help buttress them. I'm not sure.
I don't understand what charcoal would do.
I don't know either. They dug then all the way to the 90-foot level. It was then that a shovel struck something that did feel a little bit different. This didn't feel like another oak platform. This felt a little sturdier. The men removed the soil, and they find a big flat stone, roughly 2 foot by 3 foot, maybe about 10 inches or a foot or so thick. And it looked like it may have had some kind of writing on it. Or symbols, some kind of inscription. It wasn't just, normal English letters or, Finny, whatever.
Right.
But it had something on it that appeared to be some form of writing or inscription. And this got them extremely excited. For the moment, though, it was just a minor impediment. So the Onslow men sent the stone up, and they kept digging past that 90-foot mark. And at 98 feet, another worker with a shovel struck something that also felt a little bit different. So they're wiping away that soil to get rid of the last layers more carefully now, because this might be the treasure they've been looking for. And it did feel like, or appeared to be, wood, and it didn't look like it was the normal oak platform. From what they can see, it looked like the top of a treasure chest.
Oh, finally.
Uh-huh. It's about goddamn time. But perhaps a little bit like McGinnis and Vaughn and Smith back in 1795, they look up now 100 feet into this massive, massive deep shaft, and the sky is darkening. It's dusk. They're going to have to stop for the night. No problem. They'll unearth it and bright and early, first thing the next morning. So I'm sure they spent that night in their tents or whatever, asking each other, what would you do with all the money? Oh my God, here's what I would do with all the money. I would, first of all, I would open a bakery, and then I would take all my family to Japan, where our family is from, and then I would go to, and then you realize that half of $25,000 can't do any of those things. So, but still, they had, money in their dreams and thinking, our fortune's made now. It's only 98 feet down. We're going to, keep going and find this treasure chest and first thing in the morning. So they go onto the site. They look down. They even maybe started to lower themselves down, but they'd look all the way down to the bottom of that shaft, 98 foot below, and they see, what is that? It looks different. Oh my God. Is that water?
Uh-oh.
Is that water at the 30-foot level? Has this water buried our treasure almost 70 feet below its inky surface? Yes, it had. During the night at some point after they left that shaft, it had flooded all the way up to the 30-foot level.
That's a problem.
Leaving them a very, very, making it impossible to get to the treasure. They didn't have, diving apparatus.
Go get their
back
scuba
then.
gear.
Yeah, they didn't have that. No. Jacques Cousteau had not invented the scuba.
They didn't have that big old metal ball that you put on somebody's head. No idea how that would ever have worked.
I don't know. It works for Sandy Squirrel in that cartoon whose name I'm forgetting right now.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
So I think they could just put an upside down fishbowl over their head and they could have gone all the way down. So they thought, you know what? We can fix this. So men got a bunch of buckets, probably also some pulleys, something like that. And they began to bail the water. No matter what they did, though, it would not go below that 30-foot level. There's no clear record of what they used, but they certainly had pumping technology. So presumably they brought pumps, even if at this time they were man-made or man-powered.
Yeah,
and that's how you pumped out ships, and ships could take on water. And so they're using pumps. They're everything they do. They're giving every effort to drain this, and they probably thought, okay, we can drain this.
Yeah,
nothing worked. They could not make it go down an inch even. So the Onslow folks put their heads together. And they came to the conclusion that, okay, this is some very intrepid pirates must have dug this money pit, but they also must have done some kind of ingenious booby trap, some kind of access to a water source that at some point of the redigging their shaft, it causes that shaft to flood and flood up to the 30-foot level.
Those pirates with advanced engineering degrees.
You would be shocked. How smart and well-educated many of these cutthroat murderous thugs of the sea were in the 16th and 17th.
I probably would be.
You'd be shocked, the number. The numbers are so shocking. So they very wisely said, hey, guess what? It's hopeless. Let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And they did. It's the next year in 1804, and the Onslow Company apparently had a change of heart because they thought, let's give it one more shot. So they came back to the island, and they had a new plan. So they took some time off. Came back, hey, somebody thought of something. They said, wait a second. What do you think they did? Just take a guess. What do you think their new plan was?
I have no idea.
No pressure. Just tell me the new plan. What they thought they'd do is dig a parallel shaft, like on the other side of it. And if they can go down below it, they can dig over. So they dig a vertical shaft, and they can dig over horizontally and get at the treasure from underneath.
Just like when a kid falls down a well.
Absolutely. It's exactly like when a kid falls down a well. I love that analog. This new plan by the Onslow Company was to dig this shaft, dig it below the level where they had previously dug, and before the original money pit shaft had flooded, and then again tunnel over horizontally to get at the treasure from beneath it. That was the idea. So
Yeah. And then whoever's in that shaft is going to fill up with water. Right?
Carrie?
I mean, once you connect the two shafts, you're going to be full of water.
It's the doubters that ruin the dreams of the dreamers, Carrie.
Unless they know something I don't know. I don't know how that's not going to happen.
Well, it doesn't have to happen. If they're on the opposite side of where the presumed flood channel is accessing the original money pit shaft, then
it doesn't matter if they're going to connect with the money pit shaft.
I don't think
where there's already water.
I'm sure there's some kind of geology.
Okay, we'll continue.
Well, so they decide that they're going to build the shaft, and they do, and they go to 114 feet down.
So they go deeper.
Yeah, they go deeper. I don't know what it was exactly, but they dig. They go 114 feet down, and they dig the horizontal shaft or tunnel to get to the original shaft where the treasure is waiting for them, the wooden treasure chest that they saw the top of the night before. Mm-hmm. And in hindsight, I don't know. It's a little bit unsurprising. Actually, I think you might be a little surprised by what happened next.
It surprised me, Dean.
Their shaft that they just dug started to fill with water. I know that shocks you. I know you did not expect that and didn't feel that was coming, but it did.
I'm very disappointed that they didn't expect that.
I don't know. I can imagine them. I guess, did they scramble up? Who was the person who cut that last inch? And what happened to him?
Yeah.
It sounds like it wasn't very fast. Like it didn't just rush in a torrent, but it started, like water started coming in and they go, oh shit. And they come back and water started, and very quickly the new shaft is filled to the 30-foot level, just like the original shaft is as well. So at this point, the Onslow company says, okay, screw it, let's go. And they stayed gone.
Yeah.
They were done.
Yeah.
They just didn't see any way around it. John Smith, remember, he has his cottage there not too far from the money hole, and he remains on the island. He took possession of that stone that was found at the 90-foot level with the inscription.
Right.
And so you imagine he's going to okay, let's see what this says. I'll try to transcribe this or break this code or whatever. I don't know if he did that or not, but what he did do was he used it as a stone to build his fireplace.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So maybe he just didn't have a lot of imagination. Finding a stone with an inscription in code at what you're damn sure is a vast buried treasure. Maybe I try harder to make sense of what that thing. He was a very hard-headed man, a hard-headed, practical Canadian. Mm-hmm. He said, you know what? I'm running out of fireplace stones.
Yeah.
This thing's right here. It's 2 by 3 feet. I mean,
you can't waste a good stone.
Don't waste a good stone. Don't waste a good stone. So he didn't. This is where things stood in 1804. Oh, buckle up, camper, because we're just getting warm. So until 1849, you don't hear much about what happened. But at that point, a new outfit called the Truro Company, Truro, was formed by another set of investors. This is almost half a century later. And they had caught the Oak Island treasure bug. So it stayed alive as oral history in Nova Scotia and in the area of Oak Island, that back in 1795 and then 7 and 8 years later, these two groups had found this hole. Here's what happened. It had flooded. It stayed there, but it was still it must have been amazingly enticing. Mm-hmm. So this group actually said, we're going to go at it. We're going to, redig this very well trodden ground, but we're going to get that. We're going to figure out, we're going to be smarter than those last guys. We're going to figure this out. So the new company dug out the money pit to the 86-foot level. Apparently in the ensuing years, the water had gone. So, or maybe it partially filled. It's not clear, but they dug the shaft that they believe was the original money pit shaft, and they dug it to the 86-foot level.
I have a question.
Yes.
How did it get filled back in?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if somebody did it intentionally or just natural action. It's not even clear that it was. It just, the reports are that they dug that original shaft back down to the 86-foot level when the water began to fill again. Okay. And it flooded again at the 86-foot level. You recall that before it was about the 98-foot level. So still, it's pretty far before this booby trap flood channel that those ingenious pirates, whoever did it, set up. It's pretty far down. So it's like, we'll let you get down. We'll let you work your asses off until we crush your dreams.
I have an alternate theory.
What's that alternate? We're going to go through theories later.
The pirates didn't booby trap it.
What?
The ants did.
The ants that killed the oak? I don't think they had killed the oaks yet, Carrie. This is pre-oaks. Remember, the first flood happened in 1803. The oaks were there still.
Oh.
The oaks didn't be... The ant infestation didn't happen for quite a while later.
Well, they just hadn't come out yet. They were building tunnels and stuff underground.
I hadn't thought about that. That's a solid theory. Yeah. Gary's insane. So they're semi-undeterred at this point, the Truro team. So they go and get a thing called a pod auger, which is basically just a really, really long drill. And they want to go down below the 86-foot level. It's water down there, but they used to have to go down. It's just like, what are we going to pull up? They get it down to the 98-foot level, and the auger brings up some spruce wood. Remember, spruce had by this point, I think the spruce had replaced the oaks on the island. So they're not sure what's going on. Did someone redo this? Did someone put that down there since 1803 or 1804? The Onslow folks didn't say there was a layer of spruce at 98 feet. They thought it was just a treasure chest. So it's not clear what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Not much later, the Truro diggers do hit some oak. Again, they're sort of pulling this up with the auger and seeing what's down there. They hit some oak. They find some more spruce. They get some more of that coconut fiber. And then they get to what would eventually be seen as a 7-foot layer of clay. They started bringing up clay for 7 feet. This is below that, like 100 to 107 feet or something like that.
Yeah.
They're bringing back clay deposits down there. They also brought up during this process 2 pretty intriguing things. They brought up some pieces of metal. And 2 of those scraps of detritus that they brought up were very interesting. The one of those things was 3 links of what appeared to be a gold chain, a man-made gold chain. Just 3 rings, 3 links. Another interesting thing that the auger brought up was a teeny tiny, to use technical terms, piece of parchment. It was said to be about a single centimeter in size, and it appeared to have 2 letters inked on it in tiny writing.
I don't believe this.
Carrie, you need to. Oh my God!
How could a centimeter size piece of parchment make it all the way through all those layers and all that stuff being munched up by the auger?
You're going to feel so bad when I explain exactly how this is true later on in the episodes.
That somebody made it.
You're going to be shocked. You're going to be shocked. A little bit like you were shocked.
And they went to the auger and said, "Oh my God, look what I found."
Yeah, they did. Okay. And on that, the ink appeared to spell out the letters, either VI, that could be RI, it could be OI, but it was encouraging. They thought, okay, there's a written piece of parchment down there. That sounds like a pirate treasure kind of thing.
Yeah, that didn't get wet or anything.
Oh, it got wet, but you can still read it. It didn't.
Waterproof ink?
The ink had been set for a very long time. Again, that's an ink. I can teach you about all ink setting over decades, but I still don't have time for that.
Okay.
But I do know a lot about that subject. As before, when the Truro diggers sunk a parallel shaft to the immediate northwest of the money pit, they sunk it down to 109 feet, and then they're going to tunnel over toward the original money pit itself. That new shaft also floods with water, as by now you probably expected. So they thought, okay, it must access the ocean. There's not a lot of, so it's not just sort of underground water, it's the ocean, because it keeps on filling in. Any one of these different shafts nearby fill as well.
Question.
So, yeah.
Was it salt water?
Well, I don't know if they tasted it. I don't think anybody was trying to drink it. But I don't know that you can tell if you see water down a shaft, if you can tell it's salt water or fresh water. I don't know. Could you? Do you have a sense of it? Does it smell? Maybe it smells. I don't know.
No water was coming up.
Coming up where? Remember, it stopped at the 30-foot level, so it's 30 feet down. I guess they can drop a bucket 30 feet.
But the auger wasn't bringing up any water or anything?
No, it's a big metal drill.
I know.
Okay. It's not a bucket. It's a drill.
No, but it's bringing up stuff. You're talking about all this
pieces
stuff.
of metal that's stuck in like the screws and the parts of the auger. Like little pieces of parchment, metal, pieces of clay, pieces of spruce, pieces of oak, pieces of coconut fiber, that kind of thing.
I wonder just if salt water would smell different.
It doesn't matter. what they did is they looked at all the different shafts now with water, and they noticed that they went up and down a little bit in time with the tides. So they were they were pretty damn sure it was indeed connected to the sea somehow. So they thought, what we can do though, if we can find where over here on the beach or somewhere that it's feeding this flood channel, we can shut that off, that source of the water off, and then the water will drain out and we'll be able to keep digging. So let's go look over. They thought it took that it probably went to Smith's Cove, little cove with a cave, and it was on the coast. It was against the a cove and the kind of I think like the eastern end of Oak Island.
Mm-hmm.
And they went out and looked at Smith Cove, and they saw some things in the rocks there, like, think of shallow rocks there underneath a foot of water or something like that. And it looked to them like it could be some man-made works of some kind, some kind of drainage. They found some more coconut husk, and they found some eelgrass that appeared to have been purposely put on these flat stones. These flat stones would surround the entrance to what seemed like some kind of a drainage system. And they thought, okay, I think this is it. Smith's Cove is where these flood channels are being fed by ocean water. If we can somehow dam up the Smith's Cove or a little area, but where these drainage channels are, we could stop this thing from being flooded. So they built up what's called a cofferdam, which is just a temporary dam sunk into to essentially make a circle, and you pump out the water, and effectively it's surrounded by water.
Yeah,
but it dries out the area in between this circular cofferdam. And they basically just tried to do a cofferdam to sort of redirect away from what they thought were these drainage channels that were feeding the flood channels. And they're thinking, we're making some success here. This is going to work, people. We've got it. I imagine they're again starting like, what would you do for the money? Well, I have no idea. I don't know. Here's what I would do. It's 1849. So I don't know. But there's lots of fun things you can do with a ton of money.
Yeah.
So they're thinking about that. Then all of a sudden, last minute, a storm racks poor little Oak Island. And the Truro Company had to give up their dreams. The money was low. Their hopes were dashed. It seemed like it was time to give up. But wait, they had just enough money and just enough time after the storm went by. They would do one more dig. They decided, let's do one more parallel shaft. Maybe this one will work. They dug down to 118 feet and then attempted to tunnel over for the treasure. But at about this time, the original shaft, the original money pit, it looked to them that the floor of it collapsed.
Oh, no.
And the team thought, okay, well, the treasure at 98 feet, that's a lot deeper now. We don't know where it is. We don't know how deep it is. And then their 118-foot shaft started to flood as well, their new shaft.
Dang it.
Now their money is dried up. Their hopes have been dashed. The Truro Company gives up. It was officially dissolved in 1851. So you're probably thinking that's the end of the expeditions to find the money pit?
No.
No, of course it's not. To this point, we're in the 1850s now, right?
Yeah.
All of the stories about the money pit, all of these machinations, all of this treasure hunting, all of it is only known through, I guess, effectively oral history. It was not until 1857 that there was any account of this actually written down. It was, and they called it, they just assumed it was like, hey, there's this group over in Nova Scotia searching for Captain Kidd's treasure on this place called Oak Island. It was published in the Liverpool Transcript. That was a weekly newspaper in Liverpool, Nova Scotia, not in Scotland. So a little local paper just published a story on, this thing that's been happening for now over half a century.
Mm-hmm.
That same newspaper ran a longer piece about the hunt in 1861 that was written by a local justice of the peace. This article was headlined, "The Oak Island Folly." So it seems to imply that the locals, remember the farmers back in 1795,
right.
They didn't take it very seriously.
Yeah.
Those weirdos over in Oak Island that keep on getting flooded out of shafts and things like that, yeah, they're delusional. There's nothing over there. Or if there is, they're not going to get it. The same paper followed this up with a record of Anthony Vaughan's memories about his original 1795 adventure with Dan McGinnis and John Smith.
Right.
And that the whole initial search. So it's now, at least it's getting written up. So this sort of renews interest in the treasure. And in 1860, the Oak Island Association is formed. It's another group that's going to hunt for the treasure. They naturally do what you always do when you have these groups. You first have to raise money for an expedition to take their shot at digging out the money pit. They were successful, and they worked the island from 1861 through 1864. So
I hope John Smith is charging everybody.
He may not be alive anymore. He would have been a teenager in 1795. In those days, he's probably dead by now, but his family is still. Yeah, I'm sure they were. Again, no one took it. It doesn't seem like it was.
I don't care. You're coming on my land and digging everything
up. He probably
up.
had, like, if you find something, I get a share. I imagine that's the family.
I would be charging up front.
Yeah, that's true. So, what do you think this new group did? What was their strategy, Carrie?
I mean, they dug more holes and more shafts.
Parallel shafts. Yep. You still got to try those parallel shafts. They dug a new one to 107 foot. And in early 1862, what they were doing here was they essentially dug that shaft to then transfer the water in the original money pit to this new shaft. And
I don't know how they would
pump it. They would pump it out of the shaft with the money in it into this new shaft in hopes of keeping it unflooded. They thought they had to get down in the money pit shaft to like 103 feet. Yeah. And it was past 98 feet. They thought if we can get down 100 plus feet and we can unflood it in time and quickly get down to 100 and dig down to 103 feet, we can get that treasure before it refloods. So it just didn't work, though. The water just was refilling too fast. So it refills as quickly as they can pump the water out, or almost as quickly. Certainly not enough to get them down to dig down to 103 feet or so. Yeah. So they also went to Smith's Cove and they thought, okay, let's stop it at the source, just like those other guys did. And they attempted to dig shafts. They're trying to somehow deny the flood channels. I don't know why. I don't know how they thought that was going to, maybe, dig in and get those feeder flood channels or something and destroy them somehow through shafts from above, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Something like that. That was their idea, but it just wasn't working. The ocean always won. By the time they were digging their final shaft in 1864, this Oak Island Association had realized that the constant digging and the redigging and the flooding that had been going on had weakened the original money pit's walls pretty significantly.
Yeah.
So workers kind of rebelled. There's almost like a strike, a little wildcat strike at the time. And they said, we're not going down there. We're going to get killed. And so they brought in some engineers to assess the situation. And those engineers said, yeah, that's not safe.
Yeah.
Which is almost shocking.
It was never safe.
If the Oak Island, if the money people are paying those engineers, I'm shocked the engineers go, yeah, no one should be going down. Yeah. It's not safe. So the Oak Island Association followed every other group and gave up in 1864. Good for them. They didn't try to kill people.
Well, I was going to ask you, did anybody die?
Well, it's funny you say that.
Because were they, how when they dig like mine shafts and tunnels, they have to, shore up the sides with wood. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get a sense of that they were doing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
It's a very wide, again, it's a 10, 12, 14 foot diameter shaft. So it's a very large hole.
Yeah, so but it's also a very deep hole. Yeah. So,
Well, by this time, the flooding, the reflooding, and all the actions had made that original money pit, again, is only the money pit that supposedly has a buried treasure at the bottom of it. It's not all these other shafts that are there just to get at it. That's key. But so you asked about someone was killed in 1861. A pump engine, like a boiler to a pump engine, exploded and killed a man in 1861. At least that's the story. That story was first mentioned in 1863 in a novel called Rambles Among the Blue Noses, which
so maybe not.
So not 1,000,000,000% sure that happened, but that's the story. The story is that a guy died. The first fatality was in 1861. New group called the Oak Island Contract Company. At this point, they're running out of names to call these consortiums. Tried and failed to raise enough money to mount an expedition. This is followed by the Oak Island El Dorado Company in 1866, sometimes also called the Halifax Company. They started with trying to shut down the flooding source back at Smith's Island again. That was their first thing to do. They didn't drill any new shafts. That failed. They inevitably then moved back to the money pit to try to explore that main shaft. By this time, that original shaft was becoming kind of lost in the morass of other pits and exploratory shafts and the drainage shafts. It was actually getting hard to be sure. Is that the one?
Right.
I think that's it. It was getting very dicey. So it's already this very confusing, badly dug up area. It's much, much, much worse these days. But they did pull up what they thought from the original shaft. They pulled up some more coconut fibers, some wood, some clay from that clay area way down deep. That's all they got, though, and they disbanded in 1867. So we now jump forward to 1893 before anyone else decided it was time to revisit the oak island. So it's like, is this effort when it was first happened, then effort in 1849. They gave up efforts in the 1860s. They gave up, and it seems like it goes quiet for a while. It's like, okay, it's impossible. If there's anything there, it's impossible to get. But inevitably, it's so attractive.
Yeah,
it's such a tantalizing dream. The riches. One of the things is it's so elaborate. This
that it's got to be something good.
Something very valuable. Yeah. So in 1993, a new group led by very optimistic.
Hang on, you know what my question would be? Yeah. How did the original people think they were going to get it back? I mean, I'm assuming they buried it with the plan to come back at some point.
That's another great question, Kara.
But I guess if you built it, you would know how to disable it.
Is that from
right?
If you smelt it, you dealt it? Logic? No. Yes, you would know how to. Presumably, you would know how to
stop the water. Yeah,
exactly. Which is why people would focus on Smith's Cove, where it looked to them that there was some kind of a works going on that was this system. So the person who led this new effort was named Frederick Leander Blair, and he was just a very optimistic kind of guy. He, of course, needed money, and so he wrote up a prospectus that laid out the whole basic story, and he does it so with this air of absolute certainty. His prospectus, which I believe was published in 1896, tells of how the original shaft had, quote, large wooden boxes in which precious metals and jewels, unquote, had been stored, and they're for sure, that's a fact, they're at the bottom of this pit. He talked about how it was protected by flood channels from the ocean that was about 365 feet away, and how elaborate it was, which to him meant what we just said, is how it must be a tremendous amount of treasure down there. But he was saying basically, hey, this is the late 19th century, people. We have the technology to figure this out now. It's been about almost 30 years since the last major effort, so he thinks that's kind of his sales pitch. I think that prospectus came out. He was selling this for about 3 years, from 1893 to 1896. By 1896, he had collected the $60,000 to mount a new expedition, which is in today's dollars is worth $17 trillion. $7 trillion. No, $2.14 million. Oh. So he's able to gather over $2 million of investor money to tackle this conundrum. That
seems like it should be an adequate amount.
Plenty of money, yeah. Why were people so willing to support something that had failed so frequently? One reason was that Blair had bragged that the cipher stone, remember that stone with the scratchings and markings on it, had finally been deciphered it had been decrypted essentially. So remember there's a 2x3 stone that had been used as fireplace filler by John Smith. Blair said he had a, quote, expert had broken the code, and the strange symbols said, quote, 10 feet below are 2 million pounds buried, end quote. Now, the translator that I found can't go back to 1750 for some reason. As we know, trying to translate old currencies and things like that, old values to current is super tricky. It's very approximate, but that's at least $765 million today. That's if it was in $1750. I mean, again, when it was first discovered in 1795, the idea that it's been buried a long time ago. It was Captain Kidd who had buried about 1699 or so. So we're talking in today's money, there's $1 billion or more buried down there. So these lousy $2 million that he's collected, these people are going to make a shit ton of money if they can get to that treasure.
Does the 10 feet part make sense?
Presumably. I mean, it was found on the 90-foot level, so that'd be the 108-foot level. They had sent drills down there, but you have to kind of dig it out. You have to dig it and they hadn't dug all the way down to that level.
I just didn't remember
at what. Not yet.
how deep
that was about as deep as
was.
the actual shaft was when it started filling up in water the first time, and it's been filling up in water ever since. So,
but also, if you're going to bury treasure, you're really going to mark it for somebody else. I mean, you put an X. You wouldn't need to when you're putting the stone there because
someone has dug down to 98 feet. You got to give them a little encouragement. Like, hey, you're doing fine. Keep at it, guys. You're almost there. 10 more feet. That's just normal.
I think it was just an elaborate pirate hoax.
Carrie, it's called fair play. That's what it's called. It's called pirate fair. And we all know pirates had a code. Very fair people. Very fair people. So the prospectus was interesting though, because it was really careful to say, hey, there's no guarantee. Because I'm sure lawyers, even then lawyers were a thing like they are now. And so it said, quote, the fact remains the history and description of the stone as above has never been disputed, which is could not be less true.
Yeah.
So, he says, I have this expert. They've identified it. He doesn't say who that expert was, what the symbols were, anything like that. But he just says, it's going to be 2 million pounds, 10 more feet. We're going to get there, guys. That's $1 billion. Let's do this. So you got $2 million based on that.
Yeah.
Raise the funds. You've got these modern resources behind the Oak Island Treasure Company, and they started digging in 1896. They dug again into the next year. Again, shafts were dug. Hold on. Again, shafts were dug. Shafts were flooded. Pumps were used. Pumps were unable to keep pace with the flooding, even these modern 1896 pumps. The area thought to be where the actual money pit was now had been so weakened, it was considered dangerous to walk around it, let alone sink that shaft. So they had to pretty much use only now shafts nearby what they hoped was the money pit, and then hopefully get over. But those shafts were continually flooding, just like the original money pit shaft had flooded. It's just basically it's like a slowly sinking honeycomb of shafts and tunnels. This whole area is this is 1896. It's already close to hopeless.
Yeah,
it's 2026 now, so no worries. The other company figured we're gonna go big or we're gonna go home. What do you think we're gonna use? 1896. It was a fairly new-ish invention. It's a little thing called dynamite.
Oh.
They thought, let's just blow this MFer up.
Sure.
We'll get such a big hole, we'll be able to, water or not, we'll get down to that 100-foot or so where that buried treasure is.
That sounds dumb to me.
Carrie, I think they're also thinking they could block the flood channels this way if they could, excavate to the seaside of the money pit. They can get a big hole with dynamite and block the flood channels from flooding. I think that was the idea.
Okay.
So it didn't work.
Yeah.
It just kept flooding. It didn't help. They, just to be sure, they sunk some dye into one of the shafts, and then they went into Smith's Cove and they saw, yep, sure enough, look at that dye. It also, though, that same dye came out in the South Shore Cove nearby. So it now had at least 2 oceanic feeders of the water into these shafts now. That multiple sources was very discouraging, I'm sure, to them. So it meant you had at least 2 places that you knew of. You would have to stop the ocean for a temporary time to pump it out and get down to the treasure. It really made it very daunting, if not impossible, and the Oak Island Treasure Company gave up in 1900. Maybe that company was finished, Carrie, but Frederick Blair was not finished.
Wait, did they spend all of their money?
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Okay.
Every goddamn penny. And then they dissolved.
And if they didn't, they're not telling anybody.
I'm positive. If they had to last whatever left, I'm sure he went on a vacation. So Blair and an engineer named Captain Henry Bowdoin formed the Old Gold Salvage and Wrecking Company, because again, we are running out of names for these groups there. They formed that in 1909, so 9 years later, and they told potential investors that hey, you can make as much as $10 million each, which is $356 million in today's money. So again, they're talking a big game.
Mm-hmm.
This idea is that there's something down there that could be worth $1 billion or something in today's money.
Right.
It really is. It's a breathtaking fortune that would have had to have been buried for that 2 million pounds, 10 feet below, for that to be true. That's just a crazy amount of money and riches. Insane amount of money.
Another question.
Yes.
If such a treasure existed,
which it clearly did. Go on.
Wouldn't it have been known historically? You know what I mean?
There were actually, I mean, it's hard to say the amounts, but there were some major hauls by pirates back in the day. Henry Morgan, you know, he captured Panama.
The rum guy?
The rum
that's
guy,
Captain
yes.
Okay.
Well, that is the rum guy.
Okay.
I think, yeah, that's him. That's Captain Henry Morgan.
He's also the
He also puts his leg up on a treasure chest.
The colonel in MASH.
He's the what now?
Henry Morgan. Isn't that the name of the actor?
Naming Henry Morgan's. Okay. That's good, Gary. So there were some major hauls then. Some people made some serious money. So let's say they had a
that much though?
Around.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
But a lot. It didn't seem, a lot of wealthy people said, yes, here's my money.
Sure.
They believed it.
You know what? I can explain that using one word.
What?
Greed.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be plausible.
Carrie, I choose a different word. Dreams.
Of money equals greed.
You're just being cynical. So
they already clearly have money. They just want more and more and more.
Yes, Gary.
Yeah, greed.
That's called capitalism. So they also attempt to block the water from Smith's Cove, and they dig shafts near where they think that original money pit is, alternate shafts. A historical footnote on this expedition, 1909. 27-year-old Franklin Delano Roosevelt was on that crew.
Really?
He's a rich kid just having some fun. And he would remain actually interested in the money pit for the rest of his life. He, at one point when he was president, he had the Canadian ambassador come in to the White House to brief him on anything going on with the money pit on Oak Island. Yeah, no, he was fascinated by it. The engineer Bowdoin is Bowdoin, Bowdoin. So the engineer Bowdoin, he seems like a little more hard-headed, realistic guy than Blair was. There were stories that in Smith's Cove, there had been this rock with a metal bolt to it, and that was considered evidence that indeed there was like man-made works there, and that's what was used to feed the flood channels. So he said, "Okay, let's go find it," and he couldn't find it. There's no rock there in Smith's Cove that had a bolt attached to it. He also went to Halifax to personally investigate the cipher stone, and he found that it was a big, tough piece of basalt with no signs whatsoever of any symbols, coded or otherwise. We actually have an explanation for that. We'll get to that in a bit, but this made him extremely skeptical. He didn't think, he thought it was too hard for the signage to have worn off, but we'll see. So the group left the island, his group, in 1909, and Bowdoin wrote an angry letter to Collier's 2 years later, Collier's magazine, that was published in 1911. And he called the title, like the headline of his article was, quote, "Solving the Mystery of Oak Island." And in it, he argued that the solution to Oak Island is that there was no Oak Island treasure, and there never had been. It was all a mistake or a hoax or what have you. So that was the end of the wait. Don't be stupid. Of course, that wasn't the end of the treasure seekers. Absolutely not. There's a feature article in a New York newspaper that was published in 1928, and that got the attention of someone named William Chappell. And then 3 years later, Chappell was on Oak Island. He had caught the bug that everybody else had.
Yeah.
And he sunk a 12 by 14 foot shaft, 163 feet deep into Oak Island. Again, at this point, it's just like somewhere near where we think that money pit originally was, because that's the best you could do by now.
Yeah.
They think they dug a spot that was southwest of what they thought was the original money pit shaft that had been identified back in 1897 as the money pit shaft. Again, not 100% sure the 1897 people had correctly identified it, but let's say they did.
Yeah.
So he used that as his marking point, and he digs this alternative shaft. Basically, at this point, they're just hoping they're in the ballpark and that they could dig over and find that original shaft at some point. So his pit brings up some pretty odd artifacts, though. They got all the way down to the 127-foot level, and they found an axe, a pick, and a fluke anchor, which is an anchor that has like those wings.
Yeah.
So it can kind of catch something on the bottom of whatever, the lake or ocean that you're in. The pick was identified as Cornish mining as a pick, And some people said, okay, well, that makes perfect sense. It does. I mean, there are lots of Cornish miners that in Canada, and they almost certainly they use that as, it's undoubtedly, these are just the leftovers from some earlier expedition for sure.
Well, the Truro Company. Truro is a town in Cornwall.
There you go. That's where it came from for sure.
You know how I know that?
How do you know that?
Poldark.
Right on. Carrie, there is no TV show made in England that Carrie has not viewed at least once.
My PBS education.
Yeah, PBS. God, you're not just PBS.
Hey.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, Poldark is from PBS.
I know, but you watch weird sources of British television. Don't you? I don't know. Was that one? There's something that's just like British TV. Some streaming channel.
Oh, BritBox.
No, well,
a streaming channel?
I don't know. So
Acorn TV was one.
That's it. That's what I was thinking of.
There's subscription.
Gone?
I mean, I'm sure it still exists. Okay. I don't have it.
I'm shocked to hear that. It's weird that what were these items doing at 127-foot level? I don't get that.
Yeah, that is a very good question.
It's never explained. A lot of things just like, oh, isn't that intriguing? It's weird, but I don't understand what the point is. So there are more searches throughout the 1930s. Frederick Blair was involved in some of these too, even though he was, I'm sure, aging by this point. Because he still had the treasure hunting license for the island. At this point, the government had to give you a license, apparently. All these efforts continued to just churn up the area around the money pit, which, like Schrodinger's cat, just pushed the actual finding and recovery of the treasure further and further away every time they were trying to find it.
Yeah.
Blair made a trip to the island in one of these expeditions, and he said, you guys, you're nowhere near even the meadow, even the clearing where the stuff is. You're in the wrong part of the island completely. It's over there. So this is the state of the treasure seeking in the 1930s. There was an interesting find in 1939. This was when closer over to Mahone Bay. I don't know if they're digging a shaft. Maybe again another effort to intersect the flood channel and stuff that way. I assumed, but what they discovered was a shaft eerily like the original money pit shaft. They found a layer of stone 2 feet below the surface, and then they found spruce and oak logs at regular intervals down that shaft. Oddly, little's made of this shaft in the lore. I've read about it in a couple of sources, but no one says like, whoa, look, because it sounds exactly like a second money pit. But obviously no treasure is discovered. There's never even talk about that. It's just kind of like mentioned and let go. And I'm not sure why. It seems like it warrants a lot more interest and study, but it doesn't seem to have gotten much study or interest from treasure seekers. I can't explain that.
So you're not going to talk about this further?
I don't
later?
I don't have any information about it.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that Canadian scholars, or, people who know about the practices of Indigenous peoples or whatever.
I assume that's never been.
I'll
tell you right now, that's
something?
never. That we'll get to theories on not this episode. We'll get to theories though, and no one has ever brought up that this was done by Indigenous people. Ever.
Yeah.
It's never even been presented as a theory. And there are some crazy ass theories. I should say there are some pretty intriguing theories with a lot of thought given into them. So,
because my thought would be there is a reason for that, and it doesn't have anything to do with buried treasure.
Yeah. In this case, I don't know. I don't know why not much has been made of it. I feel like you were bad mouthing Canadian scholars at this point, which again, Canadian scholars, I'm going to apologize for Carrie. She said it, not me.
I mean,
okay.
I don't know.
You might have to be a Canadian scholar some days. A man named Bob Restall moved his family onto a little shack on Oak Island in 1960. And his only contribution to the legend was that he died. And that helps the TV show now call it The Curse of Oak Island, as if there is a curse, and to pretend that there is some kind of a curse associated with Oak Island, which of course there never was and never will be. What happened was that it's August 17th, 1965. He's been digging around there for a while, and he's down in a shaft with his son. No, I'm sorry. His 2 sons were there digging, and some other workers too. Some crew folks are there as well. And he's down in the shaft, and I think it was very, very deep. One of those alternate, accessory shafts, and he apparently became non-responsive. It's like, Dad, what's going on down there? His son goes down after him, and then The son also is non-responsive. They can't get his attention. He's not calling back to them. Something's going on. So then 3 workers went down after the father and son. They also got down to the bottom of that shaft and lost consciousness. And were also non-responsive to the people still up remaining at the top of the shaft.
Yeah.
At this point, a dude named Edward White, who is just visiting the works. He's just like, yeah, hey, what's going on here? I mean, I'm sure he knew what was going on, but you know what I mean? He's just a visitor.
Yeah.
He's a friend of a friend or something like that. He says, dude, tie me up, put a rope around me, lower me down there. I'm going to see what's going on. So they do. And he goes down there and he finds at the bottom of the shaft, he finds the 5 men collapsed, and he's able to grab one of those persons, one of the workers that had been those last 3 workers that had gone down, and bring up that worker, and that worker survived. But Restall, his son, and the 2 other workers all died.
Wow.
They had been overcome by I've heard it called either hydrogen sulfide or carbon monoxide, more likely I imagine carbon monoxide, because some exhaust from a pump had in that enclosed space at the bottom of the shaft had overcome them. And unfortunately, there was about 3 feet of water at the bottom of that shaft. So even though it was only 3 feet of water, all 4 men had drowned.
Oh.
So they collapsed, they're unconscious, and they drowned.
Oh, wow. That's horrible.
It was a tragic worksite accident, yes. Was it a curse? Obviously not, because it's a tragic worksite accident. So that made a total of 6 deaths. There was another one apparently in the 19th century, in addition to the guy reported in the novel.
Yeah.
So that makes 6 deaths in the entire time of, I don't know how many hundreds of people working
here's
this
the thing.
incredibly dangerous
I would expect way more than that.
Honestly, given that 4 of those 6 were in one incident, I'm shocked it's only 6, to be honest.
Me too.
Yeah. So some people add to this whole curse of Oak Island nonsense. One of the expedition folks in the 1950s, I believe, was this Texas oil millionaire named George Green. And he had kind of been, knocking around the island in the 50s. And in 1962, he was murdered. He was murdered in Guyana in South America, having absolutely nothing to do with Oak Island. So now that's a lot of time how curses work. You find any tangential connection to this thing that causes the curse, and that's what you do. And that's what they've done with that. So there's no curse, but this was a horrific accident in 1965 that killed 4 people. Next major dig was led by a guy named Bob Dunfield. And he was notable because he said, we're going to bring the big guns over here. We're bringing heavy machinery to really dig out massive holes. You couldn't get that there because it's an island. Yeah. So he was the one who built that causeway I mentioned at the top.
Oh, wow.
And from the mainland, it's not very far. I can't tell you. I bet you it's not more than 200 yards or something like that. It's not
still, it's not cheap.
No, he
no matter
had a bunch
how
of fill
long
and
it
he
is.
built a causeway. And I don't know if he paved it, but he made it flat enough and sturdy enough that they were able to get very heavy machinery over to the island. Yeah. It's funny though, because that causeway is at the northwest side of the island, and the dig is more in the southeast. So I don't know how it got across the island. They must have dug out a road of some sort. So he gets some really heavy machinery over there. And they do their digging. Their major discoveries that they found that very deep, I can't remember how deep, but below where the diggings had gone so far, they found that there was a big void, a big water-filled void think of Oak Island had a void in it below a lot of these channels. Whether it's below the actual money pit channel, we'll never know, but below all these channels, at least below the channel that he dug out, they found a void there, just an area of open space filled with water. He stopped his efforts in 1967. That's when Dan Blankenship and David Tobias were the next characters who searched for the buried treasure, and they formed a partnership called the Triton Alliance. They started in 1968. In 1971, they dug a shaft, and what they did is they decided, let's encase like a giant vertical steel tube. Mm-hmm. And what we'll do is we'll sink a video camera down this steel tube all the way down to the bottom and see what we can see. I'm not completely clear whether they thought they were digging in the actual original money pit or a different shaft. It's not completely clear. Again, it's 1971. If they knew where the money pit shaft was, it was a good guess. And if it was safe to dig down, that seems surprising to me. But I think they thought they were digging in, or at least claimed that they were digging in the original money pit shaft, the actual money pit. Again, it's not clear though. They called it borehole 10X. And from what to me, I think they realized it probably wasn't the money pit, but they, I don't know if they hoped it was connected or there's multiple shafts. I'm not sure what the thinking was. They sent down this video camera, and at this point, they're in real time, they're up at the top looking at like a feed of the video camera as it goes all the way down, and it goes down into water, 100 or more feet below. They're not recording it. It's just a live feed that they're watching. And they said as they got down into the water, they saw a severed foot and a severed hand floating in this, I think the void water, like
Yeah.
And then they pulled that up. They went down another time, and on a later video recording, later sinking it down in the steel casing, they said they saw 2 or 3, I'm not sure what, wooden chest. Gotta be treasure chest.
Wow.
Also a cutlass, which is like a large old-timey sword. And, wait for it, the best one yet, a dead body slumped against the wall of the void. Whether it's a body or a skeleton, again, not sure. But they said they saw all these things. The hand and foot must have been hands and feet. So body, hand, foot, sword, treasure chest. I mean, they saw it all in that not recorded video feed.
I was like, was the body on like a bed and there were coins all over the place and maybe a chandelier hanging and he had a sword going through his ribs?
That you exhibit. I'm just trying to convey.
What am I describing?
I know exactly what you're describing because I have notes about that here. Just admit it, you monster. But thanks for bringing that up. That's cool. So it's a very dramatic
We've been married too long.
Yes. I mean, I imagine there's a ton of buzz there. Unfortunately, they then sent down a video camera that was recorded and had actual images that other people could see besides these main guys.
Yeah.
And they found absolutely nothing like anything whatsoever, like a foot or a hand or a body or a treasure chest or a sword or anything like that whatsoever. So what were they seeing? Were they seeing what they expected? Is it some kind of a confirmation bias? When they first saw what they said they saw? I don't know. I mean, they're just flat line because they're trying to generate more interest to get some more money.
I was gonna say, were they doing some fundraising?
I don't know. It does sound a little reminiscent, though, of that Disneyland's Pirates of the Caribbean attraction that had opened 4 years before this. So who can say? In 1976, Blankenship, still at it, he almost died when borehole 10X partially collapsed around him. Probably the curse.
Yeah.
Assume it was. Legal wrangling then prevented any more drilling until the mid-1980s when the Triton Alliance kind of reformed, and they sought about $10 million in a new funding for yet another expedition. This plant was going to use some of the heavy machinery that can come out on the causeway that the other guy had built earlier. Their prospectus now estimated the value of it at least $100 million, possibly into the billions of dollars in 1985 or so money. Their efforts were unsuccessful to raise that money, though. The 1987 stock market crash certainly didn't help, but for whatever reason, they were never able to raise the money. Everything stayed in that kind of stasis until April 2006 when Rick and Marty Lagina, those two guys from Michigan, who now are the main folks behind the Curse of Oak Island television show, they bought a half share of David Tobias's Triton claim. Dan Blankenship still owned the other half, but they had essentially the Lagina brothers had bought their way into Oak Island, and there's a couple other investors involved too, but they were able to finally get a treasure hunting license from Nova Scotia by 2010 and started digging. In 2014, the super honest and critically acclaimed and the scientifically minded folks at Cable's History Channel came knocking on the Lagina's door, tent flap or whatever it was. They greenlit the Curse of Oak Island that would star mainly the Lagina brothers. Blankenship was in on it. The show is now in its 13th season.
Good Lord.
It's insane. It is an insanely mundane and idiotic show. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Is one of the dumbest shows on television. Typically, apparently, and again, I haven't seen a whole episode. I can't make myself do it. I've seen snippets over the years of it because Treasure Island story is a fascinating story.
Yeah.
So I've seen snippets over the years of it, but it's not entertaining. They're not.
They can't be making any progress.
Whatsoever. They by definition have learned and found absolutely nothing. It's become mainly kind of one of those conspiracy shows.
Yeah.
And what they do is the episode would typically is like the guys are speculating about, what do you think the treasure is? Who do you think put the treasure down there? It's just them talking and speculating about the same thing they've been talking about for year after year after year. What's the treasure? Who put it? And as we'll see in the theories section of this our story here is that those theories are extremely wide ranging, and they have at some point apparently bought into all of them. And just whatever they can think, talkie that fills time, because there's not a ton. They'll do some shots of people digging and the ongoing operations. I almost feel like the operations are kind of just for show. Yeah. Literally. I'm sure they end every commercial break with, "Oh my God, what's that?" And then people rush around and say, "Oh my God, oh my God." And they come back to commercial break. And it's completely mundane. And, "Oh, yeah, someone just dropped a quarter." I don't know. But that's all those shows go. So they did supposedly find a copper disc in one season, and it was supposedly dated to the mid 1600s. Can I say supposedly more times? And supposedly of Spanish origin. All of that has been disputed by actual people. They found a Roman sword. That was big because Romans did this? I mean, 2,000 years ago? I'm confused. Turns out that ancient Roman sword, is a replica of a Roman sword made at most 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. They also once used a version of the cipher stone, like the inscription, the translation. They studied it never, and they tied it to, hey, this might have some connection to King Solomon's mines in Africa, because people have heard of King Solomon's mines. Yeah. What they did not know is that inscription had been made by a skeptic of Oak Island who just made an illustration of what the inscription might look like out of his head. Yeah. It was a fictional inscription, and they do a whole episode and they tie it to King Solomon's mind. It's just, that's how inane and idiotic this ridiculous show is. And that's where we got
a lot of airtime to fill there, Dean.
Oh my God. Yeah. 13 times however many shows they do per season. That's insane. Minus commercials. So that's basically where it is right now. We'll end this part here, there. Every year, this same group is now digging for the season, whatever, on Oak Island, doing more digging things in between, talking about what treasure they're going to find eventually. And it's basically in the hands of this gaggle of basic cable grifters who are seeing how long they can drag out their gravy train. And so far, it's been 13 seasons and counting. So that's what we'll end now. Next time, we'll talk about who may have, what are these theories? Who did this? Why would they bury that treasure? How do they bury that treasure? And some of the major theories about who might have done it. And then we'll get to, some questions about those theories. Okay. We'll end up giving our take on what might be the case.
Okay. Can't wait to hear it.
I can't wait as well.
Because, obviously I've heard about this thing, but I literally have never read one word about it. I've never looked it up. I've never Googled it. It's just not my area.
There's some pretty cool theories.
Of interest.
A theory is almost elaborate as the money pit.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, good.
Okay.
Can't wait to hear what's coming next.
Thank you. See you.
Bye.
Bye.